Hi there guys, my name is Jacob and welcome back to my channel. I put out a video a few days ago titled "How much does it cost to live in the UK?" And basically this video was me going through my monthly budget for the month of August 2024. And in that video I break down all my costs and, unsurprisingly, my biggest cost of the month was my mortgage. And I think we can all probably agree our mortgage payment is probably the biggest payment we all have every single month. Now, that may not be for everyone, but I would say the vast majority would probably agree with that statement. And like I say, it certainly is for me. My mortgage payment is £949 a month. And, I know this is a fairly high figure. It's certainly high compared to my old mortgage. Before I moved to the house I'm in now, my old mortgage was £415 a month. So less than half of what I'm currently paying. But of course, that was because that house was a lot cheaper. So that mortgage was a lot less than I have now. And also the interest rate was far better than what I have now. So, it's kind of like a double whammy effect, really. If, I bought a more expensive house, interest rates have, more than doubled, and I borrowed more money. So, those three things have ultimately led me to a mortgage payment that is more than double what I was paying before. But while I know this is a fairly high payment for me, obviously I don't know what other people pay for their mortgages. It's not really something people tell you that often. But from the comments section in the video I posted about my monthly budget, I was actually quite shocked at how many people told me they were surprised how high my mortgage payment was. And the general consensus was that people couldn't believe that I had a payment that big and that I was going to have to pay £949 for the next 25, 30 years. And people thought that, it was a killer of a payment and it was going to burden me and weigh me down for years to come. That was basically the general consensus. And I was quite shocked by that because I actually thought more people would be able to relate to having a mortgage payment that high. It shocked me a little bit. So I took a step back and I thought, let me do a bit of research and find out where do I stand in the current landscape of, the average mortgage payment in the UK. And I did a bit of research and I've got these numbers to share with you. So over the last 12 months in the UK, the average mortgage balance that was taken out was £184,000. So that is the amount the person borrowed on average, £184,000. And they took that out on average with a percentage of 4.97%. And that is for a 25-year term. So that is the average, 184,000 borrowed against an interest rate of 4.97 over 25 years. Compare that with what I borrowed just over a year ago. So I borrowed just over £200,000 at an interest rate of 3.91. So a full percent lower than the average. But I took mine out over 30 years. So I borrowed more, but at a better rate. But I had it over a slightly longer term, which obviously brings my payments down a little bit. But ultimately, the average person with the average mortgage over the last 12 months will be paying £1,072 per month. Whereas compare that with my payment, I pay £949 per month. So even though I've borrowed more than the average, I'm paying less than the average because I've done it over a slightly longer term and I also got a better interest rate than average at 3.91 compared to 4.97. And I believe I managed to get this interest rate because the average person takes out a mortgage with a 25% deposit, whereas we took our mortgage out with just shy of 40% deposit. So that enabled us to get a slightly better interest rate on our mortgage. Now, you might be thinking, how in the world did I get a 40% deposit for my house? And that is because, quite simply, I had a house previously that we bought. And over the time of owning that house, which was 7 years, the house appreciated in value. So it started off at 173,000 when we bought it. and we sold it for 230,000. So that nearly £60,000 of appreciation, couple that with the £40,000 deposit that we started off purchasing the property for. All that money, that equity, we were able to, once we sold that house, move that equity over into the deposit for our new house. So we ended up with a lot of equity. Couple that also with the amount of money we paid off the mortgage over the 7 years. And we didn't just make our mortgage payments every month, we also made overpayments. So in the end, we actually ended up with a equity value of somewhere in the region of £160,000, which is a lot of equity to have in a house. So we moved all that equity over to the new house, which gave us a 40% or just shy of a 40% deposit. So that is how we managed to get that 3.91 compared to the average of 4.97. But as you can see, I am not that far away from the average, but I am actually less than the average payment per month. So it baffled me really that so many people were shocked at my mortgage payment of £949, when actually the average person is paying £1,072. Now, of course, not everybody is the average. I understand that. Some people will fall far below that. And actually, some people in the comments told me they were far above that. But, really, it shouldn't be that shocking that, I have that mortgage payment. The reality is in the UK right now, house prices are, crazily expensive. As with everything seemingly in the last few years, the price of everything has just gone crazy. But houses are one of those things in the UK, they just never stop going up in value. And that's great if you own a house. And like I say myself, I have actually benefited from, my previous house going up in value quite substantially. But the thing with house prices is it's all relative really, because, yes, I benefited from my first house going up in value quite substantially over 7 years. But also this house that I moved to also did the same. And because where I've moved to was already more expensive, it's a more desirable area, it meant that this house went up in value faster than my old house. So really, I'm no better off. And actually, I'm actually worse off in reality, because, I've ended up having to borrow more money to be able to move to where I've moved to. But the reality is, had I not had my first house, where I managed to have a decent deposit to start with, make overpayments, plus the appreciation in that house value, without that equity, I wouldn't have been able to move to the house I'm in now. So it massively helped me having appreciation in the house and all that type of thing. But at the same time, it hinders me because, now I'm in my new house, I have a bigger mortgage balance. And I'm almost like gone back to square one in a sense that, I've basically reset and gone back to day one on the mortgage, because I'm back up to a fresh mortgage term of 30 years. And, I'm a year into that now. So I've got just shy of 29 years. I think it's 28 and 10 months or something like that. But it's a long way to go, is the point. And £949 a month for 28 years is one hell of a commitment. And it's even more shocking when you actually think about how much that mortgage costs you over the lifetime of the mortgage. And I actually did this calculation. So £949 a month for my £200,000 mortgage at a 3.91% interest rate actually costs me £341,253 over the lifetime of the mortgage. So I only borrow 200, but I have to pay back 341. So that is just like a shocking number of how much a mortgage actually costs you. It doesn't sound like that much when you think, 3%. Oh, it's not that much, But over 25, 30 years, that 3% adds up and adds up and adds up. And because it's against a lot of money, the balance is a lot of money to begin with, 3% of 200k is a lot of money. You know, you're talking 6k a year. When you add that up over 25, 30 years, it adds to a lot of money. And this comes back to the point really of, you know, overpaying your mortgage is something really we should all be doing, because it will save us such a lot of money over the lifetime of the mortgage. And at the moment, you know, in the first 12 months of me living in this house, I haven't made any overpayments. I've just paid the bare minimum, just to, you know, get the mortgage paid and keep on track. And most of that was because we've been doing renovation works to the house. So I didn't want to use any of our spare money to pay down the mortgage. I needed that spare money to complete the renovation works. But now the renovation works are over with and we are happy with how the house is now, the state of it, and, you know, the kitchen's been done and all that type of stuff, which I will go over in a future video. But now we're happy with all that. We now have money freed up that we will probably throw at the mortgage in time and try and bring that balance down quicker. I have no intention of allowing the mortgage to go full term, you know, the full 30 years. I have no intention of that. I will make overpayments, and my goal is to pay it off within 20 years, which is a pretty reasonable goal, I think. I hope I can do it faster, but I think a goal of 20 years is a reasonable goal and something pretty good to aim for. And if I could get that completed in that timescale, it would mean that I'd be mortgage free by 50 years old. So I think that's a pretty cool goal to aim for. And, you know, I think we should all have a little goal like that in mind when it comes to things like mortgages. Have something to aim for, a light at the end of the tunnel. And it keeps you motivated rather than getting bogged down with the feeling of, you know, that, like people said in the comments of that other video, the kind of weight of the payment and the burden that sometimes it can feel like. But if you've got a lofty goal, like being mortgage free by 40 or 50, something like that, you know, it just keeps you motivated and keeps you inspired to keep pushing, make those overpayments. And you never know, one day, hopefully, we'll all be mortgage free and life will be that little bit easier. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys, but let me know down in the comments what you think about all this. You know, do you fall in that average category of the average mortgage payment being £1,072? You know, are you much less than that? Are you much more than that? I would love to know down in the comments below. And don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button, because it really, really does help my channel. If you made it this far, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.